Explaining the power of Web3 to people is important. First of all, so that we can onboard more people into a free, decentralized future, but also so people around us don't think we're doing weird, scammy stuff they don't understand. It's frustrating to not be able to communicate what we're passionate about clearly, but Web3 is so novel it can be hard to do. Here's a powerful metaphor I use to explain the importance of what's happening, what Web3 is delivering to the world, why it matters. Keep watching, and you can use this explanation too, and come across better to people that you meet who don't get Web3 and think it's all a big scam. Or if you yourself are one of those people who don't get it yet, hopefully you will by the end. I believe Web3 is big, huge, probably a bigger wave of innovation than the internet itself, which was so big we can't really imagine the modern world without it now. But how can I get that across to people without sounding like I'm just deluded? Well, here's a metaphor that I've tested on a whole bunch of people and which works really well. What if there were no goods in the physical world? What if everything was services? What if the shirt you're wearing was really a license to a shirt, which could be revoked at any moment, or disappear if the company that made the shirt went broke, or suddenly change from cotton to polyester because another company acquired your shirt manufacturer? Imagine a world where that's true of every single item you own, from your house, your books, hell, even your animal companions, if companies think they can get away with it. Imagine how this would impact the real world economy. Think how much economic activity depends on the fact that people believe they can buy stuff and own it. All the businesses that take existing materials and repurpose them to make new stuff. All the people who like to accumulate or collect things because it makes them happy. All the ways in which stuff is important to people. Humans like to own things, and it also ends up creating enormous opportunities for creativity, which leads to more new things being created, and so on, in a virtuous cycle. Now, as a valid counterpoint, sure, even if you own your shirt physically, that won't stop a thug or a totalitarian government from breaking down your door and stealing it, and maybe beating you up. But stealing physical property like that is hard, time-consuming, expensive, and difficult to scale. That doesn't stop governments from trying, but it does stop them from succeeding too much. In the online world, though, property doesn't exist. This has been true for the first few decades of the internet's existence. You don't actually own anything that you think you own online. Your Twitter username or your Facebook profile exists at the mercy of those corporations. Your YouTube channel and Gmail address can vanish tomorrow if Google decides it. The closest thing we've had to online property has been domain names, but even those are subject to ICANN and can be revoked by force if a good enough reason is presented, or if ICANN becomes pliable and the US government forceful enough. The entire online economy runs purely on digital services with zero goods. Until now. I believe this is one of the most powerful impacts of Web3, the emergence of true digital property online. Property you can really own, which you can do whatever you choose with, without having to seek permission from the creator of the property, in the same way that you don't need to ask your shirt maker's permission, or even for them to be aware of that possible use case before you cut your shirt up and turn it into something else. Digital property is so powerful you could even turn it into hitting that like button and subscribing, so that you can find out about cool videos like this one when they come out. Moreover, this property is even more secure than real-world property. Whilst it is of course still vulnerable to the $5 wrench attack, where rather than using a supercomputer cluster to crack your private keys, a government just gets a thug with a $5 wrench to hit you until you give in. That is only if you do decide to give your keys up. Unlike with physical property, you can choose to take your digital property with you to the grave to some extent. This is perhaps a bit grim, but given the state of the world, it's worth stating explicitly. A totalitarian government can threaten you with death if you don't hand over your digital keys, and so take your property from you that way. But if you decide to not reveal your private keys, even killing you won't let them take it from you. Compare that to the ease with which the Nazi government could just steal en masse the physical property of millions of Jews that they murdered. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, that's quite relevant. This is one of the reasons why digital currencies are so interesting to so many people. Many feel like they can't trust their governments or local authorities with control over their personal wealth, and so they have created a way for wealth to exist outside of any government control, and for individuals to be able to own and control that wealth. This is all sounding a bit negative, but there's a positive view on digital property too. Digital property can unlock enormous amounts of activity, economic and otherwise. The digital economy, as it is, with no real digital goods, is worth about 15% of the global GDP. But that also includes things like Amazon, which are really just optimizations around selling physical goods. Really, at the moment, the global digital economy is much smaller because it mostly exists to optimize the physical economy. Right now, the internet doesn't really have any of its own stuff to sell, just services that sometimes masquerade as property. You don't really own anything online. Let's go back to that image of the physical economy, but without any goods, where the shirt on your back doesn't belong to you and can disappear at any moment. Now, imagine that you took this world and suddenly invented the concept that people can own stuff and it's theirs and they could do whatever they want with it. Can you imagine the impact this would have on the world? Economic, creative, scientific, Social? It would be huge, enormous, transformative. It would basically create an entirely different world that people living in a services-only physical world could not have imagined. This is what's about to happen to our online world. It's possible because blockchains like Ethereum have built the underlying technology for digital property to exist independently of any government or corporation. They cracked the problem of getting tens of thousands of people worldwide to collaborate to maintain a global computer that's now able to, among other things, keep a global ledger of who owns what online, which can be trusted because it doesn't belong to any specific government or corporation and is secured by cryptography. It's huge and it's pretty much inevitable. I find it hard not to get excited about it. And if you're watching this video and you really want to, you'll get to witness this incredible change happen over the next decade and maybe take part in it if you so wish. If you want to understand the power of NFTs and how they will play a part in this, or if you think you know, but you'd like another metaphor to explain things better to your friends, check out this video I released earlier that presents another powerful analogy to help explain how Web3 works. Thanks for watching, GM, and good luck!